Welcome everyone to the first EED webinar of the year 2021. It is February 4th and our theme today is rebooting motivation and willpower. And thank you everyone for joining us live, and for those watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. So I chose this theme because it's very appropriate for what we're going through right now globally, but more so where we are in the cycle of nature, which is we're in the dead of winter, middle of winter. We've got about a month and a half before we start hitting spring. And what I wanted to do is take this opportunity to talk about the seasonal cycles, the creative cycle, and how yes, our world moves through seasons, and that's going to march forward despite whether we like it or not. But we also have our own personal seasonal cycles of activity and inactivity. And if we're flowing with the cycle, we have a good balance of having surges of activity and periods of rest. We remain healthy, we remain vitalized, full of life energy. If we are not in touch with how these natural cycles flow, we can experience depression, procrastination, anxiety, or burnout. And so I'm going to show you, it's a pretty straightforward and interesting way how to understand flow and resistance, and when the flow and resistance work optimally for you and together. So this helps you balance how you're going to put ideas into action. When is it the best time to sit with the idea? When is the best time to do visioning and strategy? When is the best time to begin taking action? How do you reap the rewards of your action? And when is it the best time to rest? So for right now, I know we've hit the new year. It's January. People probably have made lots of good New Year's resolutions, and now it's a month later and they probably dropped them. So we may have had great ideas, at the beginning of the year, and then it's, a month later and it's like, I don't feel like it. So we might feel a deflation of motivation. Maybe others aren't. Maybe others are kicked into high gear. But this is, how do we understand ourselves in what motivates us and what exercises the will? And it does take discipline to exercise the will. And if we're too much of a slave master to ourselves, we will rebel and we will move into inaction. And if we're not a good boss to ourselves, we will do nothing and we'll be very unorganized and just live in chaos. So any questions there before I move on, or how is this sounding for you? Any comments?
I think it's nice because it's one of the questions that most of my clients ask me, how can I be in balance all the time? And I think that is only about time management. And I always say it's not about time, it's about energy.
That's right.
Notice when the energy is in balance, when it's not. I give you an example. In September, I used to don't do nothing because I need to rest. It's always in September for me. And sometimes the first 2 weeks of October, I don't have to do anything. I need just to rest. Instead, summertime is very creative for me.
Yeah.
And I respect this cycle for myself.
Right, and everyone will be moving through their cycles at different times. It may not match with the actual year here, right? And that is very important to remember. But we all move through these periods. Anyone else?
So by default, by default, I'm happy when I'm active and all. But I don't take it well when I'm, if you want to name it, resting or down energy. So it will reach me to frustration and reach unpleasant state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And many, especially if you've got high performance individuals, overachievers, that they will not take a break. They will not celebrate the rewards. They will not rest, so we'll talk about that as we go along. So we have overachievers, we have underachievers, right? And I'll pull back to what Irene said. It has nothing to do with time management. It is energy management. And when we are working well with our energies, counterbalancing them, time is not a factor anymore. It's when we're resisting ourselves that we're losing time or wasting time or not managing our time, right? When we actually are in flow, time does not become a factor. Meaning it could pass very quickly, we're very productive, or it could feel like time is standing still, but it's a full moment. So what are we discovering today? I've already mentioned some or most of it. So we're doing an overview of the creative cycle in its different phases in the creative process. And this cycle will explain how flow and resistance work together and how we can be in flow or be in resistance, but both are happening. And it's how to optimize both so that with flow and resistance together, that's where we are most creative and we will take creative action. So with that, we'll look at some simple ways to revitalize your energy, ignite new inspirations that will naturally lead you to fulfilling action. If we're dragging our feet, it's not fulfilling. If we're feeling like we're running on empty, it's not fulfilling. So, and right now is the optimal time of the year to really take stock and recharge. Our energies, take care of our health, take care of our bodies, take care of our minds. And then we're looking at some tips for overcoming various versions, manifestations of depression and or burnout, because we can all experience it, and how to get back into flow with your own natural creativity. And as we go along, feel free to throw questions, comments at me. Feel free to agree, disagree. So this is coming from Emergent Essence Dynamics. This is, we will teach leadership, coaching, conflict courses, etc. And I want to just briefly explain what EED does. I know that all of you have been on the webinar before, but those listening to the recording, this might be their first time. What we're doing is we're looking at the actions and behaviors of people, and all those actions and behaviors follow a unique pattern. It's a fractal pattern, and it works in cycles. And these patterns are what drive the person, the issue, and the transformational process. So patterns are working everywhere all the time. And so this is looking at the pattern of our creative cycle, and this is universal for all of us. So we're looking at how to manage our energies, how to optimize our creativity from the point of view of EED, all right? And then, so it is a universal model that's pinpointing the fundamental patterns that drive human dynamics. So this applies to coaching, leadership, healing, mediation, facilitation, and personal development. It's universal. So every one of our webinars is going to address various issues, problems, and provide solutions through this EED model and some of its skills and techniques. And then if you really want to learn the EED model in depth, we have courses coming up, and those courses are going to start in March 5th to 7th is our first one. Module 1, it's going to be online. I can give you more details later. So there's 3 things that we're focused on with Emergent Essence Dynamics. That is the relationship between resilience and resistance. That creates the foundation for transformation. Okay, so we will look at resistance here, how it works in the creative cycle. We're also looking at relationship dynamics. These are the dynamics that are driving our behaviors. We're in relationship with everything, and so we're always playing these games. Those games help reveal our own patterns. And then we're looking at what are the fractal patterns and cycles at work, and that actually defines the transformational process that we take the person or the group through. And so when we do our training modules, module 1 focuses on resilience, module 2 focuses on resistance, and then module 3 focuses on reconciling the two together in order to take creative action. That is a simple way to start defining EED. Any questions on that or comments? Because this year I decided I'm going to make it simpler. I'm hoping that worked. Any comments, or just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All right, thank you, Yusuf. All right. So every webinar we're doing this year is going to look at the relationship of resistance and resilience, how relationship dynamics work, and how do these fractal patterns and cycles influence our transformational process. And then you'll walk away with some specific tools for coaching, leadership, or facilitation, or personal development. Okay, so what we're looking at today is the creative cycle. That's a fractal pattern. And it works in 4 periods, 4 seasons. So let's look at this as the metaphor of a tree. And what's the life cycle of a tree? Every year, all right? So there are 4 basic phases. It moves from a seed, it grows its roots, it grows upwards and develops its leaves, and then it bears fruit, and that produces another seed, which then can grow into another tree. And so what we're moving through is we're moving from spring into summer, autumn, winter, and each of these seasons have their own unique characteristics for how our creativity works and what is the focus of the energy and flow of our creativity. And we're basically moving from inertia to activity, or from inactivity and just pure potential to full activity, fully realized, concentrated, crystallized expression of that potential. So we move from inertia to activity, back to inertia. All right, that is the full cycle. So from seed, growing roots, developing the leaves, the branches, then bearing the fruit falls to the ground, is absorbed into the ground, and a new seed is planted. So is that pretty clear that we're moving from potential into full expression and then back to potential? Questions, comments along the way? All right. So that's how nature works, all right? So how are these energies working then? Well, what we're doing is we're doing an internalized buildup of energy, like electric energy. It's concentrating, 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 charging up, charging up, charging up, and then boom, it gets expressed, externalized, released, radiating. It's a full expression of that energy. And then that energy dissipates, diffuses, and evens out, and then goes back into the fold, back into the essence or the potential. And then it starts collecting itself again. So this is basically electromagnetic energy. We're drawing energy in, concentrating, 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 and then we're bursting it out, and then drawing it in, bursting it out. So it's exactly like the way we breathe. We inhale, 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 focus, 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 energy, and then exhale, send. So this is send, receive. Any comments, questions there? Aha, good question. Why not clockwise? Let me answer that later, Peter. There are more reasons, but frankly, we're oriented to read from left to right, so that's why I'm doing it. But also, this is an opening. When you turn a valve, you turn it counterclockwise. This is an opening, all right? Also, to build up, build up, build up, build up the way energy is working, it will work counterclockwise. When it's diffusing, it's going to work clockwise, okay? So when it's building up and integrating, it moves counterclockwise. When it is diffusing, it moves clockwise. So it's like a winding up. Okay. Now, we can equate this with our personal creative cycles. So a tree is going to move from seed to root to leaf to fruit. Well, that seed can be a spark of an idea. And then we've got to start laying out that idea and create a foundation, fertile soil for that idea to be able to flourish and grow. So that's like give roots to the idea. This would be design, vision, strategy, and structure. Then we need to start constructing, acting upon the idea. That's going to be expansion, more brainstorming, and actually taking some actions and beginning to construct and start to put the idea into action so it can follow through. And then it's a full product, a full performance, a full harvest of the good work we've done. And it bears fruit. And that is the full expression of the idea. And then we'll move into a time of reflection or rest or hibernation until the next idea comes. So we are moving through a 4-phase cycle from idea to build a foundation, expand it out, construct it, and then it's a finished product, a full expression. And then that bears fruit to new ideas. So we can break that down into when we have the idea, first thing is to foster and feed the desire. From desire will come expanded vision. From the vision will come the strategy. And then we can start taking action on it and build the strategy, put the strategy into action. And that's when we can start to harvest, reap the rewards of our actions. It creates more action, more construction. And then let's say you've got the finished product, the finished thing, you've done the performance, you've written the book is sold, okay? Now you're reaping in the revenue, etc. Then we're gonna naturally wind down and go into reflection mode. What did I learn here from implementing the idea? We absorb the rewards into ourselves. It becomes a very internalized process. We'll go into a hibernation mode. And it's from that hibernation mode that a new seed starts to spark. And then we're back into the cycle. Any observations or questions here? Because then we can look at, well, what if you're not quite flowing with this? What if you're skipping steps, etc.? So comments, questions, or admirations for the graphic? Because I worked hard on that yesterday.
Really cool graphic, and I love the structure of it. This is the comment. Now, sometimes, yes, there is no flow. You'll be stuck in the vision only and going back and forth between vision and desire.
Yeah, you can get stuck. Okay, so now let's address why. So this is the way nature is going to move. Now here's the thing. This is a cycle moving from inertia to activity back to inertia. So we are naturally inclined, as is nature, to keep everything into a diffused balance, a balance of potential and inertia. When we start gathering up into activity, we're disrupting that balance. We're starting to condense and control energy. And so that takes will and effort to move, to concentrate, to crystallize. Because then as soon as we start doing that, nature snaps back and says, I want to diffuse it back to inertia. So there's actually a polarity happening. Which is going to, which side is going to be more dominant, inertia or crystallized action, okay? So as we are generating energy internally, building up, charge, there is also going to be a counter energy, a resistance that's going to want to temper that. The more we move forward, it's going to want to pull back. Let's pull back to inertia. No, I'm going to move forward. It's going to pull back. Why would that be there? so that we're just not spinning out of control, okay? So it's a friction. Creativity needs friction. So you cannot light a fire without some resistance. So as we're taking our idea, I mean, we're not just going to jump into, complete action. We got to build, foster the idea. It's going to have some laziness. It's going to have some resistance to it. It's going to have some, I don't feel like it. What if it doesn't work? Maybe it's just better I don't act on the idea. Oh, nice idea, but I'd rather sit on the couch. So you're getting pulled in two directions. Inspiration is going to want to build up the energy, focus it, concentrate it. And then there's going to be, well, yeah, I just kind of want to just relax and diffuse and rest, go back into inertia. So look at inertia almost like pulling on the reins. And what we want is this fine balance of optimal energy moving forward plus a little bit of pullback so that we can actually steer our energies. Is this making sense what I'm saying? Or not, or questions? Yeah.
Just as you're saying this, or Troy, actually, just something to share on this, like, this really helps me understand myself a lot better. Like, I have bipolar disorder, or what is called manic depressive illness, which is actually a better description of it. But mania is pure energy and creativity without resistance.
Yeah.
And it's not grounded, and it's just,
right.
It can lead you to some really scary, crazy places, whereas depression is all inertia, no creativity. So, of course, my body doesn't naturally wants to naturally go to one extreme or the other. But I think this is actually a really helpful way to look at that in that context, actually. So thank you for this. It just light bulb just went off, and I'm like, that's a great analogy for bipolar.
Awesome. Yeah. And what we're really working with here is electromagnetic energy. This is how electromagnetic energy works, because the electricity is the generative side. It's charging up, and it's pulling everything in, concentrating. Okay. But as it's pulling things in, stuff gets pushed out, right? So it's like a compression, like when you're squeezing the water out of a sponge, well, the water's got to escape. So that's why there's heat. When we're compressing things, as the electricity is compressing, we're generating heat. Then when you let the sponge go, the sponge expands, it's diffusing, it's radiating, okay? That's the magnetism. You'd think magnetism sucks things in. It's actually the opposite. But so as the sponge expands, well, it's also drawing in the air, okay? Or it's filling up with water, right? As it expands. So that's what's happening on this side, is once we've charged up energy enough, there's going to be naturally, it's going to bank over and discharge, all right? So on this side, that's the discharge of energy. When we're acting upon that energy, releasing it, diffusing it, radiating it out, okay? Spending, externalizing the energy, all right? There's going to also be a resistance saying, no, conserve, draw it back in, internalize. And then we want to go out and we want to act. So on this side, it's the opposite. Think of this as, this is about being very focused, very internal, and then this is about more of an outburst, being extroverted, out in the world, acting, expending energy. Then you're going to want to suck it back in. So here, the resistance is going to look like you may stop yourself from taking the actions. It's not because you're moving into inertia, it's because you want to charge up more energy. I want to keep it to myself. I don't want to give things away. I don't want to, it's almost like not being externalized or generous. I'm trying to find the best words here to describe this. But then what happens, you'll start expending so much energy, and that it's going to You're going to feel like, ooh, I'm kind of depleted. I'm kind of exhausted. And then the resistance is going to be, I will not go to inertia. I want to keep moving, keep acting, keep going, get to the next idea. Don't stop, because if I stop, I might get lazy. I might disappear. Okay. That's what's happening here. This is where a lot of people are with their burnout, because they're actually resisting the move back to inertia. They want to keep up here, action, 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 high energy, full of energy. And they're actually depleting themselves, and they're not allowing themselves to be depleted so they can recharge over here, right? Now, then we're back here and we're like, oh, but it was so nice to hibernate. But then there's the call to action, to build things up and start moving into more and more activity. We're like, yeah, but I just want to sleep. Then we hit that hump and like, okay, now I'm inspired. I want to move. This might show up like, oh, I'm afraid to act. I should really just keep the ideas for myself. I shouldn't really share them, but then I do want to act, but then I don't want to reap the rewards. And then I don't want to rest. I don't want to sleep. So you guys following my logic here? We've always got a push-pull depending on where you are. So everywhere when you go around this circle, there's going to be two counterbalancing or counteracting energies. Know where you are. Am I in the flow towards activity, or am I expending all that energy going back to inertia? If I'm fighting myself and I'm flowing towards activity, there might be a push or a pull towards inertia. If I'm in expending all my energies, then there might be a resistance to go to the inertia. I'm being pulled to stay in activity, and I don't want to go to that inertia. This is also could be hoarding here if you're resisting. I won't give my stuff away, right? Or this could be where I just live here envisioning and strategy, and it feels good for me, for myself, but I'm really not, like, I'm not publishing the book. I am not showing the artwork. I am not doing the performances. I just sit in and write and practice all day. And so all that energy can build up, and it can fester, and then it can turn into cynicism, negativity, or self-sabotage, because I'll make sure that it doesn't get released. Okay, that's another thing. All right. Any comments, questions there as I move through this?
It reminds me the state's hibernation, desire, vision, strategy with the 8 circuit model of consciousness.
Yeah.
I see this hibernation to strategy is a terrestrial.
Yeah, this is all your full creativity going back to the body, right? And then it's starting to move back into the emotion, right? So high creativity, moving back to the body, and then to the emotion, and then to the higher vision, and then into the mental strategy, purpose, and then starting to take action in the world and reap the rewards with high creativity, and then bringing that back into the body. Yeah. So in module 3, we teach these 8 circuits of consciousness and how we move through them as we move through this creative cycle as well. How are we doing here?
Is the shamanic, equal to the shamanic state, the reflection?
Say that again, Yosef. I didn't quite catch what you're saying then.
The reflection state.
Okay, this is where we start to be less extroverted, and we start to become more introverted. So, for example, here I'm giving the show, the performance. I'm the actor on stage performing the play, okay? Here, the curtain comes down and there's the applause. I can receive the applause, and then I start to take rest or stock the next day. And or I drink the champagne, I celebrate, I appreciate the performance I've done, and then I can begin to reflect Okay, what did I learn? I start to absorb back into myself all the lessons I've learned from the performance, from the process. And then I allow myself to just rest and to forget. And then really focus on recharging, starting to recharge myself, revitalize my health, my mind. But a lot of people will be here, they've given the performance, curtain comes down, and then boom, they're over here. And I say, okay, next performance, next play. Or they might say, curtain comes down, they say, well, that was dissatisfying, that was crap. And well, moving on, back to the drawing board. And they completely skip their winter. Some will even not listen to the applause. So this is, so here you're giving, sending, giving, sending, giving, sending, giving, sending. Here is where you start receiving it back in. All right. As you diffuse back into inertia, meaning potential. So you, all that good stuff you put out there is to nourish you, to bring it back in. And that's what's going to recharge you. And that's what's going to bring in the next cycle of inspiration. If we do not eat our fruits, it was a wasted crop, is what I'll say. Anything there for you?
Yeah,
Yusuf, or comments, or Peter? Yeah.
I would like to comment from another model. I like that they said that it's always important to, after you struggle with your goals and plans, always go back to your desire.
That's right.
Before you move on. Yeah, I wonder if in your model there are stages
Absolutely.
where you think it's essential to always go back there.
So think of it this way. You've got a seed idea, build desire, let that inspire the idea, let that build the desire. So it's like you're moving back and forth here, and then you're gradually using your will to move forward and keep generating more energy, but you use the resistance to keep feeding back. So then you use that inspiration, desire, build, expand into the vision, right? And then let the vision feed back to the desire, let the desire feed back to the vision. That gradually moves you forward. Then that starts to clarify the strategy. Use the strategy to re-inform the vision, which re-informs the desire, right? So all of this moves back and forth, and gradually moves you forward, all right? A lot of people will say, oh, I've got an idea, great, I like it, boom, let's take action. And then they're wondering, why do I have a good day and a bad day? Well, because they didn't build a proper foundation, which is a really clear, specific, expanded vision infused with emotional energy. It's the desire that's going to drive. Okay, that's pure energy that's going to drive you forward. If you just go on an intellectual strategy and it's dry, meaning not emotionally connected, it's going to be very easy to fall apart and collapse. This is like, how could the tree start growing its trunks without a root system? It's going to fall over. It's going to collapse. Okay. So yeah, Peter, think of this as moving back and forth, gradually forward through the loop. Okay. When you've got plenty of desire that's coming from the original inspiration to expanded vision to strategy, this will include purpose. Okay. The why to everything. The purpose becomes more clear then here as you start taking the small actions to build. Now, look, a tree doesn't just pop out of the ground full grown, okay? So it's got a root system. It starts to grow up above the ground, little actions that start to accumulate and build and accumulate and build. And that's all informing back to the foundation. So when you've got a good structure in place, like a clear picture, a clear map. This is all about design. This is your design phase. Then here, when you start to build the structure, manifest it, make it real, okay? Meaning like, okay, so I got to build a business. Well, I got to have a business plan, but then I've got to have structures in place, like register the business name. I've got to get the bank account. I got to get the website built. I mean, all of that is initial construction from the foundation before you can actually sell the product. Do you guys understand what I'm saying there? So you've got to think of all your plans in that way, that there are various types of actions to do. And if you've got that clearly visioned out and strategized out with inspiration and emotion that feeds back to your own well-being to propel you forward, and a sense of purpose, then it becomes like paint by numbers. Oh, I know exactly what I got to do today. I got to get the Eventbrite site set up today, right? I've thought through all my tickets. I've thought through, I know what I want to sell. So now I just got to fill in the blanks. And then you're going to get obstacles like, oh, how do I figure that out? How do I figure that out? But my vision is clear enough to say, okay, so that just informs my vision and strategy a little bit more. I'm infused with the generative electricity here, right? That's going to propel me forward. It's easy to start constructing things and then taking action and working through the challenges and obstacles when you've got a foundation. Making sense what I'm saying here?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and here it's micro actions that lead to bigger actions, that lead to bigger actions. And some of these first things might be feeling like grunt work, like I got to dig a hole in the ground, pour in the cement, and start building just the framework, right? I want to get to the pretty details, well, that'll come later. But so what can happen here is, as you get to the highest charge of electricity, you're going to get the highest resistance as well. All right. Then once you start discharging, the actions get easier and they start to roll and they start to flow. Okay. And then once you get here ready to harvest, here's where you might get a little bit of self-sabotage, because you might say, I'm not ready yet. I got to go back. I got to go back to my strategy. I got to go back to, this is where perfectionism might come in. All right. This is like when you've built the website and you're ready to press launch, right? Publish. Did I do everything? Did I get it all right? Did I get, ooh. Well, look, you'll still deal with the glitches and the problems, but you got to keep moving here, okay? Then things will start running on its own. Then you can start collecting. Here's where you're collecting and eating and enjoying and slowing it down, celebrating all this good hard work here. So guess what we do in the summer? We water the plants, we dig the soil, we prune the garden, right? And then when autumn comes, October, right? We start picking the fruit, and then we need to start planning, canning, pickling, all of that. So we save the fruit for the winter, because we've got to take care of our fruits and rewards and have them last through that winter. All right. Anything else coming up for you guys? Analogies, metaphors, etc. What does this tell you about the role of willpower? And how the will is important to take us through the cycle. Any ideas, inspirations there? Go ahead, Yusuf. Yeah.
Willpower will be fed through the desire. That's what I feel. I mean, as long as your desire is strong, the willpower will peak. Because
Yeah,
there is
on this.
at every stage there. But once you go back to the desire, you activate the desire, there is no setback. And mostly what I deal is between desire, vision, then resistance comes, then I go hibernation, desire, vision. This is the default. I'm telling you what I feel like, and I take myself as an example. So I study when I see other client or whatever. And most of the time, I enjoy the fruit. You get so high on the fruit, so you burn all the stages just to get the fruit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything else? Yeah. Jason, were you going to say something? Or I saw you unmuted there.
Yeah, I just wanted to read it back here. So, I mean, it seems like willpower would not be enough to overcome resistance if you're skipping steps.
Yep.
So, for example, if you go from desire to action prematurely, then you hit this roadblock, and it's like, well, why can't my willpower overwhelm it? Whereas if you took a step back, then your will can move you forward against the resistance because you're not getting as much of it. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, that's partly it, right? This is about directing my intentions. I'm on this track, right? I'm not going to start indulging in this track. So I'm generating my energy, moving from desire to vision, strategy, but I'm not going to indulge in hibernation. Okay. Fully. All right. So it takes will to move against that strong current of inertia in order to start generating new ideas, right? And on the other side, it takes will to use the ideas, share the ideas, take the actions despite the tendency to want to hoard and withhold on this side. So the main track is to externalize, radiate, release energy. The resistance is about hoarding and holding in. All right. So it takes will to that. This is where this is going to feel like risk. Okay. This is where risk is involved. So risk is here. Risk might be here too, because here I might desire to hibernate and sleep and not build the idea. Oh, it's just a stupid idea. I won't invest in it. I'll just sleep some more. Okay. Here is I've got, to get the fruits off the tree. Even if I'm thinking, are they ripe yet? Are they ready yet? And then they're over ripening and they're falling to the ground. Now I'm saying, oh my God, everything's collapsing around me. I'm losing my fruits. You've got to move forward. Or the crop is done, but I want more of the fun. I don't want to rest. I don't want to have a period of inactivity. That's going to feel like risk as well. So it takes will to move through the cycle. And skipping steps, it takes will and discipline to allow yourself to move through all the steps. You can skip steps, but you'll pay for it because you'll get knocked down. And then you take action too soon. Too big of an action too soon might work for a little bit, but then you might get the wind knocked out of your sails. It's harder again to get up. So it takes will and discipline to counterbalance these energies. Jason, just let me know if that's jiving well with you, or I know I went kind of on a long explanation there, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that helps quite a bit though. But I guess one thing is like, how do you know? Because you mentioned something also that was very resonant and interesting, is that burnout can occur from resistance to going into inertia.
Yeah.
And that hadn't occurred to me that, that's, or for depression for that matter, it could be resistance from going into inertia. So I guess my question is like, how do you know not to leave inertia prematurely? Because some of the resistance may be appropriate to stay there for a while.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you know when it's time to push through it versus stay?
That's very good. So use the map. Where am I? Where have I been? Where am I going? All right. So for example, Irena is saying in September, that's her month of rest. So how she's got her cycle set up, that by September, she's starting to move into the reflection and hibernation mode. Come October, come November, then she's starting again, right? So where have I been? Have I been in hibernation mode for a long time and now I'm starting to get fearful of moving forward? Am I starting to resist that? So it's like, what are my impulses? Am I waking up every morning thinking, oh, I can't take action today. I just want to put my head over the covers. Well, why am I putting the covers over my head? Is it because I know I've got things I've got to deal with? And I'm just saying one more day, one more day, one more day. That's where I'm starting to resist here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or is it, I got to keep busy and keep busy because if I stop, I'll go nuts. I'll go insane. That could be resisting the reflection. I'm now addicted to busyness.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that could happen is procrastination. So I know I've got this thing I got to write or this report or this thing I got to deal with, but I'll clean the house. And I'll wipe the counters and I'll cook food, right? And I'll do everything but. That can also be a form of hibernation or inertia. And all you got to do is switch the channels, okay? So, meaning I am actually using energy, but there's something I'm not facing or dealing with in myself. That means I haven't reflected.
Yeah, that makes sense. And actually, I use procrastination as a way of prioritization. In other words, if I've got top 10 list, what is the thing I most want to procrastinate about? That's probably the thing I should do first in reality. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few ways to deal with that. You got your top 10 list here, and you could think, well, what is the absolute easiest thing that I know I could get done lickety split? Don't even think if it's important. It's just, that can start kickstarting the flow, okay? What's something easy and simple? It depends where my mindset is, okay? What is the most inspiring thing on the list? What is the most difficult or challenging thing that I dread on that list? And then what's the one thing that'll pull all these things together? Like, what's your simple hook? That's another way to look at it. And then what must get done whether I like it or not? So those are different ways to think about it. Where am I here? What's going to give me the foundation to get the rest of those things done in an easier manner? What is the one thing that's going to start my flow of energy? Okay, that's going to come from, that's why I say, what's the easiest and most pleasurable thing to do? Get that done first. What's going to clear my mind? What's going to have me deal with what I've been dreading? Okay. And then there is, when you're in activity, spend your energy doing action, then come back and recharge. Spend your energy doing action, come back and recharge. Especially like you're working on something, you can't figure something out. So rather than beat your head on it, stop. Go out, take a walk, give yourself time to recharge, or do a stupid thing. Okay, but do something that's going to focus your energy, draw you in. Don't go turn on Netflix and diffuse all that energy out and become a deadhead, right? That Netflix is going to move you totally into inertia, okay? You can do that as a reward for yourself, use it to re-inspire. But if you're using Netflix as avoidance, what you're doing here is you're depleting all your energy. Then you're going to have to get it all back. Is this making sense what I'm saying or no? Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
So, okay. I deal a lot with perfectionism and procrastination personally. And I have to figure out, where have I been? Where am I going? And so I had real difficulty during December, January, because I had a lot of higher activity in October, November. I was here. And then I was already starting to skip the step. My mind was like, oh my God, you got to get the next year's courses up. You got to start thinking of the webinar themes. You've got to get the scheduling done, And I wasn't properly doing the reflection and the hibernation. I was doing it like a guilty pleasure, or Okay, I'm taking the day off, but it doesn't really feel like the day off, but I'm just not doing anything anyways. And so it's building my anxiety. So I'm actually resisting going into the pure, relaxed, pleasurable flow of reflection, and then making the conscious decision, okay, today I sleep as long as I want. Today I'm doing absolutely nothing, right? It's not to be depressed and lazy, it's to simply allow yourself to completely deplete, which then allows you to discharge or to recharge. So in order to recharge, you have to discharge. So here is where we also want to let go of our toxicities, our resentments, our anger, our frustrations. That's what the reflection process helps sort out. What do I appreciate from all the fruits? How can I bear bigger, better fruits? Okay, I can reflect on all of this process, right? Without punishing myself, but to learn from it. But if I'm going to hold on to and harbor resentment and cynicism, that's going to create a bad seed for the next cycle. Okay, and if I'm not completely recharging, I'm depleting my soil in the garden. If I'm not detoxifying, those toxins are going to leak into the next crop. Is this making sense, what I'm saying here? So there's a detoxification that happens emotionally, mentally, physically. This is what winter is great for as well. Okay. That's why people do a spring detox, but I'm saying do it just before spring. Okay. Do it during the winter. All right. You mentioned depression. Okay, so what I also want to say, so when we're generating energy, we've talked about this in other webinars, so I'm just going to go through it really quickly. We just need an energy that we can circulate through ourselves coming from a main body center. It has a sensation and a quality. That quality or energy is self-perpetuating, self-generating, and unconditional. We talk about this in webinar 9, all right, which is core vitality and resilient well-being. So I do recommend go to the YouTube channel, EE Dynamics, watch that webinar, because this is about generating the energy within ourselves so that we're taking in, we're giving, we're receiving, and we're letting go. Okay, that creates a healthy flow of energy. What I'm giving, I'm receiving, I'm detoxifying back to the earth and taking in from the earth the nutrients, giving out the inspirations, receiving the inspirations, all right? That's when we're on that side where we're doing the desire, the vision, the strategy. This is all an internal kind of energy. Then we can start to externalize that by giving out energy actions to the world and then receiving back in from the world. So we've talked about that in other webinars, but this is now the radiative side, okay, where we're releasing and externalizing our energy. So, and for everything we give, we receive, give it to ourselves, give it away, give it to ourselves, give it away, then send and back, okay? And that's the kind of rhythm that we're in when we're working through this cycle. Somebody was going to share something there, or somebody has to go. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Jason, he'd already left, but thanks, Jason, for joining. Okay, so I'll come back to that for a second here, because what I wanted to show you was, in summary, and I want to know what you take away. So here's what's very simple and important to remember, is that life is always flowing from inertia to activity and back to inertia. That is our natural cycle. Moving from potential to fully realized expression of it, and then it goes back to potential. We start from the seed in the ground, go into the fully formed tree, then the fruit drops to the ground, and the seed is back into the ground. So it's like from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We come from the earth, we grow out, we go back to the earth. So Inertia is our natural state of essence and potential. That's why it takes energy, will, and desire to express that potential, because we're moving from inertia. When we move from inertia, it's going to want to hold us back. No, stay in potential. It takes willpower, desire, focus to start crystallizing all that potential into concrete things, energy. Then it's going to want to naturally dissipate back. Entropy, okay? You know what entropy means? It means dissolving, falling apart. So that's our life cycle. Depression is either the pull towards inertia or the pull towards activity. This is the pull, okay? What it means is we're having a weakened will, because either way, you're in resistance to the pull. So if I'm pulled towards inertia and I want to be in high activity, but I'm being pulled to the inertia, okay, I'm in a state of resistance. I'm not going with the pull. If I'm pulled towards activity and I'm fighting it by staying in inertia, I'm in depression. I'll end up in a freeze state, because this push, pull actually means now I'm in no activity. I'm just hovering. And then the emotions will start to shut down. The thoughts will start to shut down. And I just end up in this freeze state. So again, it's like, where have I been? Where am I going? What's the natural pull? What am I fighting? All right. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that? Does that help make sense about what depression is? Because depression can work in two ways. Depression isn't always about, I just want to do nothing. It's, I might want to do everything and I'm not acting on it. Or I don't want to do anything and I'm supposed to do stuff. Okay, so it's we're in a state of resistance. Okay. The key to get out of that is enjoyment. Now, we've talked about acceptance, appreciation, enjoyment in other webinars. All right. So the first thing is, enjoyment allows you to go with the natural pull and be in flow. So if I'm being pulled into activity, whether I'm afraid of it or not, like, we're not talking about fear here at all. Fear is another thing. We'll do that in another webinar. This is, am I in flow or resisting the flow? So how do I get in the flow, even if I don't know where the flow is going to take me? Pay attention to the flow, how it feeds your well-being, and begin to enjoy it. So it is a decision, an exercise of will to join the flow, all right? And the first steps are to be in acceptance and appreciation of that pull. What am I being pulled towards? And it's one moment at a time. I might be having flows of ideas and I'm just swatting them away like flies. Well, rather, take the idea, don't jump ahead to act on the idea, but just simply enjoy the idea and let it feed you. You'll start to flow. Naturally, vision will appear. Naturally, you'll start moving into strategies, but it's one micro moment at a time. All right. As we've mentioned before, too much action creates burnout. Too much reflection will create passivity and even apathy. I'm just hibernating with the covers over my head, and I refuse to feel, I refuse to think, I refuse to be inspired. I'm just that's indulging. On the other end of the scale, I'm indulging in way too much action and will not stop to eat. I will not stop to rest. I will not stop to breathe. So again, know which season you're in and act accordingly. And wherever you are, take pleasure in everything you're choosing. So if I do choose to take a break, enjoy the break. If I do choose to open the computer and start typing those emails, then take pleasure in typing the emails. when we are doing things out of resentment, we're in resistance. Okay, so then we're countering our own flow. Always reap your rewards for whenever you've released your energies, your efforts, look at what's coming back to you and reap those rewards rather than criticizing them, swatting them away, refusing them, or punishing yourself. Celebrate all your actions and then digest what you take from them and reflect. Don't sit there at the end of the day and say, well, I didn't do enough. I only did a third of what I'm supposed to do. You're not celebrating your actions. You're not taking pleasure in anything that you've released as your efforts. So I got dressed today. I actually got dressed and I took a shower. Okay, there's an action. Celebrate it. And then move it forward to the next thing, all right? And for everything that you celebrate, digest and reflect, pay attention to the ideas that bubble up. Draw your energy inwards to build the ideas. Do not rush to act so soon. We get inspirations, well, foster them. Remember, when little plants need time to take root, and you got the little stems, you've got to foster it, protect it. You don't release it to the wild elements and the wild animals. It's got to be protected, meaning it's got to have focus. It needs to be nurtured. So nurture all your ideas and draw your energy in to build, build, build. So there may be a period of time when, no, it's not the right time to act because you haven't invested in the idea enough yet. Just spend time investing in the idea and creating a foundation. So devote time to designing structures and build a solid foundation before action. Some people say, oh, I got this idea. Well, I better get that out right now. Better act on it. No, devote time to nurturing the idea, investing it, building the desire, building the vision. Then action will become more natural and it'll flow a lot more easily when you have those structures in place. And don't become too perfectionist about your structures and foundation. Keep moving forward. All right. What are your comments, questions here? What do you take away from the webinar today, the summary
here? It is really helpful in many ways. And especially when I have to answer to some of the question of my clients, and this is really clear as an explanation. And while I was listening to you, all the ideas about my projects are coming up, so it inspired me.
That's great. So note the ideas and enjoy them, feed it back into yourself, generate the energy within. Yeah.
Yes.
Let them feed you. Great. Awesome.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anything else to say? Like what you take away here?
It's an eye opener and show you many perspectives. Maybe some stages you miss out, or maybe, so for me, my experience is an eye opener and need reflection and just like aha moment. Oh, that kind. Love it.
And I'm going to say, Yusuf, I mean, I'm also building on my own personal experience, my own personal relationship with this cycle. I mean, I'm not claiming to be perfect at all. I had a hard time during December, January. Like I said, I wasn't really allowing myself to have that winter. That's kind of been a habit of my whole life, right? So, but once I've done it, the rest of the season is just really, literally spring into action, right? So, yeah. Peter, did you have anything to say that you take away there?
Yeah, I would like to thank you that you brought together the metaphor of the tree together with the 4 seasons and the creation cycle. I'm kind of an addict of this kind of maps. And I've worked with many of them, and here I see what I like is the normally what's a bit lacking is really the natural element of it, and so and the hibernation phase is something that the other models don't really have so much. So I'm happy to have this hibernation now included in the creation.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just operating from 3 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and you deplete the soil. You might go around that cycle a few times like that, but then, I mean, that's how the burnout happens, because you've skipped your winter so many times, your body just says enough, and it forces a winter upon you. It's partly why we get sick, get the cold, the flu, right? Your body says, I need to hibernate. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Yeah.
One inspiration I take away is to map out my day using this cycle, and I wonder if you are aware of the cycle during your day.
Yeah, okay, this is a fractal cycle. So you could look at it as your entire year, whether that's your personal year or your business year. And each phase is going to have its 4 seasons. So even if I'm in the design phase of just, building desire and vision, that's also going to have its own mini seasonal cycle. Each day I live, I'm going to move spring, summer, fall, winter. I mean, look at your 24-hour cycle as one of those full years. I mean, why do you sleep? That's your winter, right?
Yeah, totally.
So start looking at your day like those 4 seasons. Okay. It's fractal. Yeah. So don't think that I'm talking about a 12-month cycle here. And wherever you are in that cycle, there's going to be all that mini. That's why everything is spiral. Generating energy, radiating energy, generating, radiating, generating, internalizing, releasing, and you're gradually moving around that whole loop. This gets taught, of course, in our training courses, and we have them coming up starting in March. We have March 5th to 7th for Module 1, and that, again, is building the foundation of resilience, right? March 19th to 21st, April 9th to 11th. These are our spring courses. And then we have Module 2 coming in April 23rd to 25th, Module 3 coming in June 11th to 13th. Again, Module 2 focuses on the foundations of resistance, how to work with resistance. Module 3 is how do you work with resilience and resistance together to take creative action. And so that's where the 8 circuits of consciousness come in. This 4 seasonal cycle comes in. You're going to learn in every module something of resilience, resistance, the relationship dynamics, and the fractal patterns. That is embedded in all 3. But you have a main focus. Module 1 is resilience, Module 2 is resistance, Module 3 is creative action. So speaking of resistance, that's our next webinar on February 17th. It's called Embracing Change, Challenge, and Resistance. And you can go to our Eventbrite site to register. That's EED-webinars-2021.eventbrite.com. Go there every 2 weeks. We're going to have a webinar, and you can register for one webinar at a time. So bookmark that link and keep coming back every couple of weeks to register for each upcoming webinar. Now, regarding the modules, if you want to take the training modules, that's where, I'm giving you an hour and a half here of material, but in the modules, we break that down in much more depth and detail, and it's all based upon practice, supervised practice, exercises. Okay, so that here I'm giving you lots of concept theory. There in the modules, you're getting demos, practice, feedback. So you're really implementing it, okay? I don't have the registration site open yet. That will be open, I'm hoping, by the weekend, but until then, if you're interested in doing a course, just email me at info@essence-dynamics.com. I put you on the top of the list so you can pre-register, and I'll give you a discount to get 200 euros off your registration, whether that would be just the one module or if you want to do the whole series. We're doing them by Zoom all this spring. So there's 2 sessions per day for the 3 days. And then there's a 3-hour follow-up session. It's a practicum where it's just practice. And that's followed up a few days after the 3-day training. So any further questions, feel free to contact me. All right. info@essence-dynamics.com. Or go visit the website, essence-dynamics.com. And you can see other webinars on YouTube. So look us up on YouTube, EE Dynamics. And of course, you can also contact me personally, troy@essence-dynamics.com. So I thank all of you for attending today. Feel free to, once I stop the recording, to hang out and you can ask me more questions, or I'm fine to hang out for, another 10, 15 minutes. For those of you listening to the recording, thank you for listening all the way to the end, and be sure to visit our website and contact me if you have more questions about the courses. Thank you everyone for attending and listening to the webinar.